Today's video is sponsored by the new hit reality TV show, I Married Mothman. A woman falls in love with a mythical creature with hilarious results. From the people who brought you the Jersey Shore Devil.
Watch it, Alan, I'm shooting.
It's time for another top 10 list. Hello all out there in YouTube and welcome back to my channel. I've been wanting to do some more top 10 lists and I came up with this little idea, so I hope you all enjoy. As many horror fans, I love a good quality kill. I do love a good on-screen kill. I love me some good gore, I love practical effects, arterial spray, decapitations, but I'm also fascinated by quality off-screen kills. So I wanted to do a list of my top 10 favorite off-screen kills. There's two different ways to do an off-screen kill. Either you don't see the person getting killed and then the body is revealed later. The kill happens just off camera and you don't see the violent details. And there are a few other ways to do a quality off-camera kill. So I just thought it would be fun to do a video about off-screen kills. I'm still a gorehound, don't worry, I will always be a gorehound. Two honorable mentions before we get into the list. I was going to put the shower scene from Psycho on the list because in that scene you don't see the stab marks, you don't see the knife going into the flesh. I debated on whether or not it counts as an off-screen kill or an on-screen kill, and in the end I decided not to put it on this list mostly because I thought that was an easy answer. I mean, the shower scene is one of the most iconic kill in any movie, and I thought it was a little too easy to incorporate that on this list, so I decided let's give it the honorable mention spot. If you disagree with me and you think that Psycho is a worthy on-screen kill, put it in the top 3. There you go, we're done. The second honorable mention breaks my heart that I can't include it on this list, and that is every kill from the movie Seven. Now, the only reason that Seven is not on this list, people who are familiar with my channel know this already, I tried doing a review for the movie Seven on my channel, and it kept getting hit with a copyright claim. Not a copyright strike, a copyright claim. But whoever was claiming the video kept blocking it. And I would remove the part that they claimed, and then they would just claim another part, and then another part, and then another part. I kept removing parts that they kept claiming, again, claiming not strike, and they kept blocking the video, and by the time I removed a bunch from the video, it was an incoherent mess, so I just don't want to deal with that again. So I decided just to be on the safe side, I'm not going to include Seven on this list, which breaks my heart, but again, if you think that Seven qualifies as top off-screen kills, by all means put it anywhere on this list. The only reason I'm not putting it on this list is sheer paranoia. And now for my usual disclaimer that many YouTubers have to put at the beginning of their videos, and it's sad that we have to do so. This is just a list of my personal opinion. It has no effect on your personal opinion. You are allowed to have whatever movies you want on your top 10 list. If you think that one movie is better than another movie, and you like one movie more than I like another, you're right. You are allowed to like and dislike whatever you want. The opinions of some random schmuck on YouTube literally has no effect on your life whatsoever. So let's just enjoy the video and have some civil discussion and civil disagreements in the argument. There's nothing wrong with that. And with that, let's get into my top 10 favorite off-screen kills. Number 10, Beth from Sleepy Hollow. Decapitations are some of my favorite kills in horror movies. There's just something so final about getting your head cut off. It's very hard to come back from that. Some horror movie characters can come back from that, but most of us cannot. Sleepy Hollow is full of great decapitations, but there's one particular decapitation that really stands out to me. The Headless Horseman breaks into the house of this family. The husband is trying to fend off the Headless Horseman as the mother hides her son below the floorboards of her house. Now, one of the things that makes this kill so effective is the lighting and the shadow work of the kill. Now, we've already seen the husband's head get cut off, and we've already seen plenty of heads get cut off in this movie. We know what a decapitation looks like. So the character Beth is in this room, and there's this interesting nightlight in the film that has all these silhouettes of witches and various other Halloween-esque beings. And they keep passing by this woman as the Headless Horseman is creeping closer and closer to her, and then we have this great shot of the shadow of the axe raising up in front of this soon-to-be victim. Another thing that makes this so effective is this is a mother, and her child is hiding underneath the floorboards of this house, and we don't see the decapitation. There's great sound work in this scene. You hear her gasp, you hear a slice, and then you hear a roll. Again, we've already seen plenty of decapitations in this movie, so we know what's happening, and the sound is just so effective in this scene. And then we just see the eyes of the severed head looking down at her son. It's such a punch in the gut. This kid did not see his mom die, but he knows his mom's dead because she's looking at him, or at least her head's looking at him. Now, there is an added element here. The Headless Horseman soon starts axing his way through the floorboard and pulls the kid out, and we don't see the kid die, but we know that his head gets cut off as well. So we have two quality off-screen kills in this scene, but the best one is definitely the mother's head rolling on the floor and then her eyes staring down at her son. I'm not a huge Tim Burton fan. He has made plenty of movies I like, and I like Sleepy Hollow. It's a good, atmospheric retelling of one of my favorite ghost stories. And I just love this off-screen decapitation. It's so well done. Number 9, Rachel from Pet Sematary. Now, Pet Sematary is a very important movie to me because it was the first horror movie I ever saw. I know a few people have criticisms of it now, but I highly disagree. I think it's a great horror movie. Like I said, it's the first horror movie I ever saw, and it scared the shit out of me. Now, my favorite kill in the movie is, of course, Judd's kill. That scene hit me really hard and made it so I could not sleep that night. Mind you, I was 8 years old when I saw Pet Sematary. But anyway, Rachel's death is equally as effective and equally as tragic, and a lot more tragic than Judd's death, actually. It's one of the most tragic deaths in the movie. So, and I should have said this earlier, spoiler alert, I am going to be spoiling a lot of these movies on this list because I have to in order to talk about some of these kills, so spoiler alert, let's move on. So the Creed family, they move into this house where there's a pet cemetery, and beyond that pet cemetery there's an ancient Indian burial ground where whatever you bury there will come back from the dead, but it won't be the same person or the same animal. They're possessed by a demon or something. Or a Wendigo. The Wendigo myth is heavy in the book, not as heavy in the movie. Long story short, the Creed family has a 2-year-old son. The 2-year-old son dies, and the father, stricken with grief, buries the son in the pet cemetery. The son comes back as this evil kid.
What did you do? What did you do?
Now, what makes this scene so effective is that we're led to believe that Rachel is going to come in to save the day, to stop what her husband Lewis is doing. We think she's going to be the victor in this whole situation. We think that she's going to be able to stop whatever's going on here. That's why she's out of town and she's being led back to her home, and we think that's to help stop this evil that's taken hold of her family. but it doesn't happen. When Rachel arrives at the house, or Judd's house, because that's where everything is taking place right now, she sees her dead son, and she's overcome with joy for seeing him. I mean, she thought he was dead, and here he is. And of course, we don't see what happens. It's all about the sound here.
Oh, Gage. Gage.
I brought you something, Mommy.
It's very effective having these screams over the shot of the bus coming towards Gage, because that is the catalyst for all this tragedy that is happening now. And of course, we don't see what happens to Rachel. We just hear her scream as we're hearing some hacking sounds. It's very effective. The proper use of sound in an off-screen kill is always effective. We do eventually see what happened to Rachel when her husband Lewis comes over to the house to try and stop evil baby Gage. She falls down from the ceiling and she's hanging there. So we do have a good body reveal there. And we get an equally good reveal after, all the events of the climax happen, and Lewis, in a state of even more grief, brings Rachel to the pet cemetery to have her come back from the dead. And when she comes back from the dead, we get this oozy eye, which is that interesting detail to show you how horrible it must have been when she was killed.
Darling.
It's perfect setup and payoff. We get an off-screen kill, we get an interesting body reveal, and then we get more of a reveal when Rachel comes back from the dead. Yeah, it's just perfect reveal after perfect reveal for me. Yeah, Pet Sematary, it's a very important movie to me, and so this scene had to make this list. Number 8, Bernadette from Candyman.
Helen! Helen, it's Bernie.
Bernadette.
You're gonna see sound in quite a few of these picks. Sound is always a big part of an off-screen kill for me. Sound is equally as important in a horror movie as the visual. Some people would say the sound can be more important than the visual at times, especially in the horror genre. And Candyman is another movie that uses sound so well. Looking away from the kills in this movie, you have Tony Todd's booming voice as Candyman, which is so effective in the atmosphere. It's that voice that when you hear it, it sounds like it's right next to you. But yeah, so sound is used so well in Candyman, and it's especially used well in Bernadette's death. And it's especially effective because of the line at the beginning of the movie where Candyman says this.
With my hook for a hand, I'll split you from your groin to your gullet.
Splitting you from your groin to your gullet. So when we hear Bernadette being killed, we know what's happening to her. She's being cut from her groin to her gullet. But that sound and that picture in our heads of her being cut open from groin to gullet, it works so well. Candyman is one of my all-time favorite horror movies and one of my all-time favorite horror movie characters, and I put him up there with a character that we're going to be seeing in the next spot.
Hey,
Trevor!
hey!
Trevor!
Number 7, Nash from The Hitcher.
Why don't you do something? Fucking do something! We can't!
John Ryder and Candyman are two of my favorite horror movie villains. They would both be in my top 5 in the same spot. Because what I find so scary about these characters is they don't just kill their victims. They ruin their lives. They turn the whole world against their victims until they eventually want to die, and then they want to kill them. The Hitcher is such an underrated horror movie. It's one of my all-time favorite horror movies. Every time I watch it, it gets higher and higher on my list of favorite horror movies. And it's such a simple, well-done premise. You have this crazy hitchhiker who is after this kid named Jim Halsey, and he wants to ruin this kid's life. He's trying to see how far he can push this kid. Again, there's more to the story, but that's the basic gist of it. This all builds to a fantastic climax where the Hitcher, John Ryder, has this woman named Nash, who Jim has befriended, tied between two trucks. Her legs tied to one truck and her arms tied to another. Now you have police officers here. This is where the police have finally figured out that Jim is not the bad guy, and they found out that John Ryder is the bad guy, but they can't do anything because John Ryder's behind the wheel of one of these trucks, and if he takes his foot off the brake, the truck's gonna roll and rip Nash apart.
Do something! If we shoot him, his foot is gonna come off that clutch and that truck is gonna roll.
It's this very suspenseful scene. The entire movie has built up to this point and another point after this scene. There's another great point after this scene. But Jim Halsey has to try and step up and see if he can save the girl. And again, Nash is tied up. She sees all these people around her, but none of them can help because the Hitcher's just gonna rip her in half with these two trucks. And it eventually gets to the point where John Ryder lifts his foot off the brake and the truck rolls forward. We see all we need to see. We don't see Nash getting pulled apart, but again, we're picturing her arms getting ripped out of their sockets or worse. The reason we don't need to see everything is because these are two trucks. We know what a truck can do to a human body, and just the simple act of seeing the truck roll forward, that's enough. That's enough to, make this scene so effective, and we can picture what's happening to poor Nash during this rolling. And the interesting thing is, there was a remake of this movie, and in that movie, you have a man tied between two trucks, and in the remake, they show what happens, and it's nowhere near as effective as in the original, where we don't see what happens. Like I said, The Hitcher is such an underrated horror movie. If you have not checked it out, by all means, check it out. One of my all-time favorite horror movies with one of my all-time favorite characters, and one of my favorite off-screen kills.
You useless waste.
Number 6, The Hitchhiker, from Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer.
I'd like to kill somebody.
Say that again.
I'd like to kill somebody.
Must mean you go for a ride, Otis.
This is another one of those movies where the more I watch it, the higher it gets up on my list. For those of you who watched when I counted down my 31 favorite 1980s horror movies, you remember where The Hitcher landed on that list? It's gotten higher since then, because again, the more I watch it, the more I love it. Serial killer movies scare the hell out of me. I find them so terrifying because serial killers are monsters that can blend in with reality. You have Michael Rooker as Henry, and he's terrifying in this movie.
Did you really kill your mama?
What?
Did you really kill your mama?
I guess I did.
You have some on-screen kills in this movie, and you have plenty of off-screen kills in this movie. There are a lot of scenes where we don't see the kill, but we see the reveal of the body afterwards. And the way each scene is handled is the camera moves around in a way that reveals more details about the crime scene, which makes it more gruesome in our heads. In addition to that, they have sounds playing in the background, some of these weird screaming sounds, which again make these kills or these dead body reveals more effective. Now, my favorite scene in the movie, and the one I find to be the scariest, is of course the home invasion scene, where Henry and Otis are watching a video of a home invasion they just did, where they killed a couple. But my second favorite scene in the movie, and my second favorite kill in the movie, is when Henry picks up this hitchhiker. We see him driving down the road, and we see this hitchhiker on the side of the road, and she's carrying a guitar in a case. Now, at this point, it's already been established that Henry is a serial killer, but of course, most people would not know a serial killer when we first looked at them because they look like normal people. So he stops for this hitchhiker, she gets into his car, and we know things are not going to end well for this poor woman. Now, we don't see the kill, we don't know what happens to her, but the reveal is so well done. We cut to Otis and his sister eating in their apartment, and then Henry shows up carrying the guitar.
Howdy.
Hey, Henry.
I brought you a present.
Where did you get that?
Picked it up.
It's that simple. We see him with the guitar that was owned by this woman, and we know that he killed her. And he just brings it in and gives it to his friend as a gift. It's so well done because our imagination runs wild. We know this woman was killed, we just don't know exactly what he did to her. It's a scene that's so simple and it's executed so simply, but it's just so well done and so effective. It is one of my favorite kills in the movie, and we don't even see it. All we see is a woman with a guitar, and then the next thing we know, we see Henry with that guitar. Now, there are some other fantastic off-screen kills in this movie, and there are some other very well-done on-screen kills in the movie, but in terms of off-screen kills for Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, the hitchhiker with the guitar, that's my favorite one. But of course, there are other good ones in this movie, so yeah, when you watch it, you'll know what I'm talking about.
Don't do that, Otis. She's your sister.
Okay, I was only kidding around, Henry.
Tell her you're sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Now, tell her you won't do it again.
I won't.
Number 5, Hannibal's Escape, The Silence of the Lambs.
Jimmy, watch it, he's got
Now, this is one where the kill is happening just below the camera. Silence of the Lambs is such a great horror movie. Everybody knows it's a classic with Hannibal Lecter, who is one of the most popular characters in horror. Not just horror, he's one of the most well-known characters in pop culture. Now, the thing about Silence of the Lambs is that even though we know Hannibal Lecter is a monster, because he's so charismatic and because Anthony Hopkins does the role so well, the movie tricks us into being on his side. Now, the entire movie has built up Hannibal the Cannibal, Hannibal the Cannibal, Hannibal the Cannibal, but we've always seen this very charming, creepy but charming individual, someone with a refined taste, no pun intended, or maybe the pun was intended, I'll never tell. And it finally builds up to his escape, where he finally releases the monster, and it's so well done.
Jesus Christ!
He's so calm in this escape, and he's doing it with a little bit of glee as he's doing it. And then it gets to the point where he raises the baton and beats one of the guards to death. It's right below the camera. We're not seeing the club hitting the guy. We're just focusing on Hannibal's face as a little blood is splattering on his shirt. And he's wearing a white shirt, which makes the blood stand out even more. I love that detail. It's like he's diving into this kill with this orgasmic glee. He's been so reserved this entire time, and as he's beating this cop to death, it's like he finally has this release of what he's been hiding throughout the film, and it's like he's having an orgasm as he's doing it. Now, of course, this leads to another great reveal. I love the shot where the other cops are coming into the room and we just see the silhouette of that dead body in the window before they open the door, and then we see the dead body.
Oh, God. Go.
works so well because we didn't see Hannibal set this up. We just see the reveal of it, and it's one of those things where we start wondering, how the hell did he do that? Hannibal Lecter's Escapes, such a great scene in horror by such a great character in horror. It's interesting because we're both afraid and happy that Hannibal got away. It's a very, very interesting set of circumstances. Number 4, Dallas from Alien.
Oh, God, it's moving right towards you.
Now, Alien already has one of the most iconic deaths in any movie with the chestburster scene, but it also has two quality off-screen deaths. It was a toss-up between Dallas's death and Lambert's death, because Lambert's death has some more gruesome details that we don't see. Plus, again, it has that sound, and we're hearing the death, which I always think is so effective. But in the end, I went with Dallas's death because it had such a good build-up, and it does lead to a damn good jump scare. I think jump scares can be effective when they're used sparingly, and there aren't that many jump scares in Alien. Dallas's death is one of them, and it's a fantastic jump scare.
Dallas? No.
Take it easy. Dallas?
It's set up perfectly earlier on when he's typing information into his computer and he asks, "What are my chances of survival?" And the computer says that it can't give that data, but that's just this good, air of doom over the entire situation. It's the build-up to the death that makes this so good. He's in this ventilation system, it's already claustrophobic, we don't know where the alien is, and when you watch this movie for the first time, we don't exactly know what this alien is. We only know that 2 people are dead now because of it. And so, it's just such a perfect build-up. Everything gets so intense. And Veronica Cartwright is so good in this movie. Sigourney Weaver gets a ton of credit, as always, and she is fantastic in this movie. I love the character of Ellen Ripley. She's great in Alien, and she's great in Aliens, but Veronica Cartwright deserves a lot of credit too because she is so good at being scared, and she is so good at being panicked in a believable way.
Move! Get out of there! Why'd you move? Dallas! Move, Dallas! Move, Dallas! Get out!
And it's made even more effective with the fact that they don't find the body. They even say that when they find the flamethrower, there's no Dallas and there's no blood. So it's, what did this thing do to him? Now, there's a deleted scene where we see what happened to Dallas, but I think the movie is so much more effective not showing what happened to Dallas.
We found this laying there. No blood. No Dallas.
We've already got a great on-screen kill with the chestburster scene, and there's a couple other great kills in this movie, but this particular scene, where Dallas disappears, it is made so much more effective because we don't know what happened to his body. All we know is that it's gone and this thing did something to him. Alien is a classic for a reason. It is one of my all-time favorite movies. So well done, so atmospheric, mixing sci-fi and horror so well together, but it is a horror movie. It's a horror movie in outer space. Alien has one of the greatest on-screen kills, it has one of the best jump scares, and some of the best off-screen kills in any movie.
Unless somebody has got a better idea, we'll proceed with Dallas's plan.
What? And end up like the others?
Number 3, the impaling scene from Cannibal Holocaust. This is one where I'm not going to be able to show much because it's very gory and there's a lot of nudity in it. You can blame YouTube for this. But the impaling scene from Cannibal Holocaust is one of the most effective off-screen kills and one of the most effective scenes in horror, I would say. Cannibal Holocaust is known for its infamy. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. All I will tell you is that it's about a anthropology professor who went into the Amazon jungle to find a missing documentary film crew. He found their remains and their footage, brought it back, and is now watching the footage from the documentary film crew, seeing the atrocities they committed against the cannibal tribes of the area, which led to them being murdered.
I'm not speaking as a scientist, but as the man on the street. This so-called documentary footage is offensive, it is dishonest, and above all, it is inhuman.
So the impaling scene, God, it's so hard-hitting. So the documentary film crew assaults this native girl. Like I said, they're committing a bunch of atrocities to these tribes for the sake of fame and for the sake of getting good footage for their documentary. And it gets to this point where they go after this poor native girl. And later on, we see that the tribe has killed this native girl. It's hinted that these tribes have a huge respect for virginity, and when something like this happens, it leads to this kind of sacrifice. And the film crew finds this native girl impaled on a pole, going up her ass and out her mouth.
Watch it, Alan, I'm shooting. Oh, good Lord!
So yeah, we don't see the kill, we just see the reveal of this body on a pole, and it's such a hard-hitting scene. The way it was done, the director explained this, he had the actress sit on a pole, there was a bicycle seat put on top of a pole, the actress sat on that, and then she held a piece of balsa wood in her mouth. But it's still an effective scene because this woman is so still throughout this entire scene. And there are scenes where the footage breaks up with static, and I think that was done deliberately to hide the moments where she twitched. But it's not just the reveal of this body that makes this scene such a punch in the gut, it's the reaction of the documentary film crew. When Alex, the leader of this expedition, comes across this body, we see him smiling at it because he's like, wow, look at what we got here, showing how little he cares about human life.
It's unbelievable. It's horrible. I can't understand the reason for such cruelty. It must have something to do with some obscure sexual rite or with the almost profound respect these primitives have for virginity.
That one moment, that one smile tells you so much about this character, how much of a horrible person he is. And it's just like how they're treating this human being who has been killed in such a horrible way as a prop for their movie. It's such an uncomfortable scene, it's such a hard-hitting scene, it's such a well-done scene. When I saw Cannibal Holocaust, this scene stuck with me ever since. It's one of those scenes where I kind of become obsessed with it because it's just so well done. Yep, the impaling scene from Cannibal Holocaust. I can't show much of it, but it's a scene that you will never forget, no matter how hard you try. It's a rough one.
I wonder who the real cannibals are.
Number 2, the opening kill from Jaws. So Jaws is one of my all-time favorite movies. It's my scariest movie of all time because I almost drowned when I was a kid and I am terrified of the ocean. I am terrified of deep water, especially when I can't see what's going on around me. And Jaws only added to that fear. This is my scariest movie moment. It's not my favorite horror movie moment, but it's the moment that scares me the most because it hits me on a deep level. Now this is an off-screen kill. Even though we see the woman in the water being thrashed around, we don't see what's going on. All the violent, horrible stuff is happening just below the surface. One of the things that scares me so much about being in the water is you can't see what's going on around you. You don't know what's swimming around underneath you. You don't know what's swimming 10 feet from you. That concept is terrifying to me. I don't like not knowing what's next to me or what's below me. It just freaks me out. So yes, this woman, this is one of the most iconic scenes in any movie. This woman goes into the water, she's skinny dipping, having a good time. The guy that she was going to have some fun with is drunk and passed out on the beach. It's at night, she's in the middle of the ocean where help could be so far away, and she gets attacked by a shark. And we don't see Jaws in this scene. We don't see Jaws until much later in the movie, and a lot of people say that Jaws is more effective when you don't see the shark, which is true, but I still love this movie when we see the shark. And sharks, while not nearly as dangerous as this movie made them out to be, they're still a frightening thought because it's literally this swimming mouth with so much teeth in it. It's so effective because whatever's happening is happening just below the surface, but we can't see it. We can't see the carnage that's going around, but we're thinking of chunks of flesh being ripped off her. We're thinking of her legs getting bitten off. But again, we're not seeing it. We're just seeing what's going on above the surface, and we're seeing her reaction. Yeah, that scene freaked me out when I saw it when I was a kid. I already had a fear of the water in the first place because of my near drowning incident. But I love Jaws. It's one of my all-time favorite movies, and this opening kill, one of the best kills in any horror movie, and we don't even see it. So we've made it to the #1 spot, my all-time favorite off-screen kill, and there are so many great off-screen kills. It was really hard to pick them for this movie. I had to go through many, but this movie is one of my favorite movies of all time. It has one of my favorite moments from any horror movie. Pretty much a majority of my favorite moments in horror movies are in this movie. So let's get into it. My #1 favorite off-screen kill. #1, Pam's death from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. This is such a double whammy because my favorite moment in all of horror is the scene that happens right before this one, Kirk's death. That's my favorite scene in any horror movie, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it has my favorite jump scare in any horror movie, it has my favorite chase scene in any horror movie, it has one of my favorite endings in any horror movie, and we have Pam's death, which is my favorite off-screen kill. Now, you could technically say I'm cheating in this because we see Pam get put on a meat hook. But we don't see her die. The scene is so well done. You know, you have that sequence where she falls into that bone room after looking for Kirk, who we know is dead. She starts running out of the house. That's one of the things I love about Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The victims always run away. It just so happens that Leatherface is faster. So Pam's trying to run out of the house and she almost gets away, but Leatherface grabs her and pulls her back in. And then we see her being brought into the kitchen, and we see that hook hanging from the wall, and we know what's going to happen. Now, they handled this in a very interesting way because Tobe Hooper was going for a PG rating when making this movie. And again, just remember, 70s PG, very different from modern day PG. There was no PG-13 rating, so PG was what PG-13 is today. But Tobe Hooper did such a good job with this movie. We see Pam is wearing a backless shirt, so there's already no clothing between her and the hook. And we see her getting picked up and pushed towards the hook, but we don't see the hook going into her. We just see her hanging from the hook. And then there's this great moment where the camera reveals this bucket below Pam. That's my favorite moment in this scene, just seeing that bucket below Pam. Because she's on that meat hook, Leatherface has a chainsaw, and we know why that bucket's there. So you have Pam on this hook screaming as she's watching Leatherface chainsaw her dead boyfriend. We see that bucket, and then the camera cuts away to a windmill outside. We don't see Pam die. We don't know if Leatherface left her on that hook until she bled to death. We don't know if he chainsawed her in half or anything, or, you know, at least cut her legs off or something like that. We just cut to the windmill as we're hearing the chainsaw and the screaming inside. And this does again lead to a very great reveal where Jerry finds Pam in Leatherface's house in the icebox. But the scene is so good because Pam gives that last death spasm before Leatherface runs in and kills Kirk. Again, we don't know exactly what happened to her. All we know is that she was on the hook and now she's in this icebox. Such an effective scene. One of the greatest kills in any movie. Texas Chainsaw Massacre has so many awesome, iconic kills and so many awesome, iconic moments. That's why it's one of the greatest horror movies ever made. And it's one of the reasons why it's one of my all-time favorite movies. You got Kirk's death, which is my favorite on-screen kill, my favorite horror movie moment, and then you have Pam's death, my favorite off-screen kill. And later on we have Franklin's death, which is my favorite jump scare. What can I say? I'm a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan, and it has so many moments in here that just work for me. And there you have it, my top 10 favorite off-screen kills. I just love a solid kill, whether it's on-screen or off-screen. Both can be equally as effective. Whether a kill is gory, not so gory, or not shown at all, it's how the film handles it that makes it work. And I respect when a movie has a good, effective, off-screen kill. It's just so, so good. And with that, let me know your favorite off-screen kills. There are no wrong answers here. If whatever is your favorite, it's your favorite. So please leave those down in the comments below. I am hoping to do more top 10 movies, top 10 lists in the future. They do take up a lot of time though, so just be patient with that. Let me know some top 10 lists you would like to see. Thank you all so much for watching and continuing to support this channel. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch my videos. It truly does mean a lot to me. And on that note, this is the Maniac, here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die.